Cloud.
Cloud. To the cloud.
Okay. Okay. I did send it, but I'm not getting a response. It says send request. So
Oh,
is that because I'm not the host? Yeah, so it looks like Michael's note takers is Otter AI is going, American Muslim 360 is going as a recording. So it's like it's recording.
it is, and we are live.
Oh, we're live. Okay.
And I'm going to switch hosts, and you are good to go.
Okay, thank you so very much. Bismillah
You're
ar-Rahman
welcome.
ar-Rahim. And we always say, that's an Arabic term, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and it means with God's assistance, we begin. Okay, we always begin with God's assistance. So, this is Tuesday morning programming on American Muslim 360. My name is William Kareem, and the name of the program is Stories of the Lives of the Prophets. So, the stories of the lives of the prophets by Ibn Kathir, to be exact and correct. So, we've been doing this program, Stories of the Lives of the Prophets, for about since 2023. And when we American Muslim 360 decided to go live on on YouTube with it, we started from the beginning, and we went from Adam, and then which is the first prophet, and I think that Christians would believe with that, and the Jewish people would say that also, and the Muslims say that. So that was the first prophet. The second prophet was Enoch, also known as Muslims as Idris, and then the third prophet was Noah, which is a prophet that's mentioned by Christians and Hebrews also. Uh, the Ark of the Covenant, for the Jewish people, the Ark of the Covenant is a thing. And then the fourth prophet was for Muslims was uh let me see, it wasn't Salih, it was good God Almighty, because Salih's the fifth prophet, but the fourth prophet, I forget his name, but we did a show about him. And then the fifth prophet was Salih. But what's interesting about the fourth prophet that came. See, after the flood of Noah, people, what they winded up doing is they winded up going back to idol worship. And so the fourth prophet, what the fourth prophet did, the fourth prophet, came to remind them, hey, look, like, you got to stop this. You got to learn, you got to give, the creator, the praise and glorification, but they winded up, taking the praise and glorification for themselves. So then he said, don't forget what happened to the people of Noah. That's what the fourth prophet did. Let me just be clear about who the fourth prophet was, because I just forgot about it, and I'm just kind of bothered by it to some degree. So I just have to find out who it is. Okay. So the problem, Hud, Hud, Hud. And so after Noah, and again, this is the stories, okay? And so, the fourth prophet, he came and he said, don't forget what happened to the people of Noah. So the people of Hud winded up being destroyed. And so then comes Salih, who's the fifth prophet, according to Islam. Um, and he said, don't forget what happened to the people of Hud. Because the human being is such a He's always going back to idol worship in some way, shape, or form. And so prophets have to be sent to remind him. That's how gracious, beneficent, and gracious that the creator of the heavens and the earth is. Like you say, look, things are getting out of control. You got to, get back in control, get back in the right balance. So, Sally, that's what Sally did. And so then came, Abraham. And Abraham, or Ibrahim, is the sixth prophet, prophet number six. So that's where we are today. We're talking about Abraham, and in talking about Abraham, last week we talked about Abraham, and we talked about how they tried to burn Abraham, and that they threw Abraham into the fire, and the fire didn't actually burn him. And the only reason why they wanted to get rid of Abraham is because he proved to them that they were worshiping idols. And they were pissed off that his proof was correct and that he made them see the truth in the light about what it was that they were worshiping. And they were pissed off about it. So rather than, you know what, Abraham was right about that. Um, we're not going to change, but you know what, he was right. They couldn't take it. So they decided, burn him. So remember what Abraham did. Abraham when the people of Abraham had left and gone to the festival, he went into the temple and he started talking to these idols that were all around. Oh, I see that they left you some food. I see they left you some food there. Why don't you eat it? You better eat it or it'll get cold. Those are the kind of things that that Abraham is having a conversation with these idols. And they're just standing there. And he's continuing to have a conversation with him. Well, why don't you say? So Abraham said, here, nobody here, you go ahead and say something. And so he devised a plan. And his plan was he brought an axe and what he did, he destroyed all the idols except one big one that was in the center. And he took the axe and put it around their neck, about around the neck of this tall idol. And then when the people came back, oh, someone has destroyed our idols. Oh, someone has destroyed all our idols. Oh, I heard it was, this young man. His name is Abraham. He's been talking about our gods. Bring him before us. This was what the priest was saying. So the priest brought Abraham. Hey, did you? No, you've been talking bad about our idols that we shouldn't be doing the worship of our idols. Did you come in here and destroy our idols? And Abraham said, no, it wasn't me. He said, why don't you ask the tall one that has the axe around his neck? He's the one who did it. And so they looked at this idol with this axe around it. Oh, no, 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 no. No, you told them now you know how idols can't talk. And then that's when Abraham he said, that's exactly what I've been trying to tell you all this time. So he was able to prove to them that the idols that they were worshiping had no power. So even though he proved it to them, they were pissed off about it. And they say, yo, we gonna burn him. So they built this great fire. And I'm talking about the priest. The priest, he was the leader of it. Of course, he was the one that was making money from it. He was the one that was, yes, bless you, your idols. He was the one that was in charge of the temple where all the idols were. So he said, yo, what we're going to do, we're going to burn Abraham. We're going to build a fire. We're going to burn him. In other words, we're going to get rid of him. We're going to kill him. And this is something that has happened with the idols and with the prophets in the past. That's what's happened with Solly. When people get pissed off at you, they want to eliminate you. They want you gone. You think that this is the first time that this has happened today with all this political turmoil that we have? When people disagree with you and you prove that they are wrong, they want to get rid of you. They won't say, well, you know what, yo, you were right about that. They won't say that. They say, yeah, you proved your point, but we're going to get rid of you because you beat us. So we're going to get rid of you. So we don't have to deal with you no more. That's what they do. So during the time of Abraham, that's what they did. He was able to prove that they were worshiping stones and wood that had no power. And they got pissed off about it. And so they decided they was going to destroy him. And they built this big fire. And then they put him in the fire. And when they put him in the fire, they put him in the fire and the fire didn't burn him. And he walked out the fire. So that's where we're going to start our story. Furious, they demanded that Abraham be arrested and tried. Abraham did not resist. This was precisely what he had been aiming for, so that he could show them up in public for their foolish beliefs. At the trial, they asked him if he was responsible for breaking the idol. Smiling, he told them to ask the biggest idol, which was still whole. He told them that he must be the culprit. They replied that he knew well that the idols could not speak or move, which gave Abraham the chance to prove the foolishness of worshiping their idols. Then they realized the senselessness of their beliefs. However, this arrogance would not allow them to admit their foolishness. All they could do was to use their power of authority as tyrants, usually to punish Abraham. Does that sound familiar as far as what's going on today? Does that sound familiar? James Comey, Letitia James, and many others that have come into the crosshairs of tyrant leaders. The human being. This is how human beings respond and react when they are uh, proved wrong. They use their power of authority as tyrants. So, this is what the stories of the lives of the prophets are doing, is showing you that this is how human beings act and respond. The message of Islam is to show you that it's a human condition. And the only way to get around it is to give praise and glorification to the creator of the heavens and the earth, to give praise and glorification to the one who allowed you to exist. See, that's the problem with tyrants. Tyrants don't recognize the creator of the heavens and the earth. They are the ones that say, you know, the power that I have and the things that I've done, it came from my own hands. It came from my brain. I was able to think of this. I was able to do this. I was able to maneuver people. I did it. So I deserve the praise. That was the situation. You've heard of Pharaoh. There was a situation with Pharaoh. And Moses had to go and address him. There's a situation with him. So we didn't even get to Moses yet. We just had Abraham. We just had prophet number six. We just had prophet number six. We didn't even get to Moses yet. So here it is. They tried to burn him. So anger was burning in their hearts. We're talking about the stories of the lives of prophets. When they realized the senseless unbelief, however, their arrogance would not allow them to admit their foolishness. All they could do was to use their power of authority as tyrants, usually due to punish Abraham. They kept him in chains and or kept him roped up and planned their revenge. And that's what they did. Anger was burning in their hearts. They decided to throw Abraham into the biggest fire that they could build. All the citizens was ordered to gather wood as a service to their gods. You see, don't let them destroy your belief in these gods. Ignorant, sick women vowed that if they could be cured, they would donate so much wood to burn Abraham. For several days, they collected fuel. They dug a deep pit, filled it with firewood, and ignited it. They brought a catapult in which to cast Abraham into the fire. Abraham was put on the catapult. His hands and feet were tied. The fire was ready with its flames reaching the sky. The people stood away from the pit because of the great heat. Then the chief priest gave his order to cast Abraham into the ground. You see, the chief priest, the tyrant, the one who was in charge, the one that had the people following, the one who was in charge of the temple where all of the idols were smashed up. The angel Gabriel came to Abraham and asked, "Oh, Abraham, do you wish anything?" Abraham said, "Nothing from you." The catapult was shot, and Abraham was cast into the fire, but his descent into the blaze was as a descent on the steps of a cool garden. The flames were still there, but they did not burn, for Allah the Almighty had issued his command. Now, you know what? This sounds a little, oh, fantastic, right? But this is not the first time that this story of the lives of the prophets is told. I remember a song coming up, and many of you may remember that song too, called Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and it was done by Brooke Benton. Well, there was three children from the land of Israel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and they took a little trip to the land of Babylon. And they took a lot of gold and they made it an idol. And they told everybody when you hear the music of the clarinet. And they told everybody when you hear the music of the flute. Now listen, children, when you hear the music of the horn. You gotta bow down and worship the idol. So then they say that the children Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would not bow down. So then it gets to this part of the now the good Lord called called in, so they cast Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fire. Now the good Lord called an angel and gave him a couple of wings. He said, go down there to the middle of the furnace, and they found them cool in the flames. And those children got so happy, they went strutting right through the fire. Just laughing and the pumping and the preaching the gospel. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Oh, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Oh man, that song was I just remember because it had such a beat, It was Brooke Benton, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. So it's not the first time. The point I'm only making is that, this whole idea about surviving the flames of the fire is not something that's the first time that has happened. The Jews have a story for it, the Christians have stories for it, and this is the Muslim story about Abraham, as far as the fire not burning. Okay. And the Quran says, "O fire, be you cool and safe for Abraham." That's Surah 21, verse 69. So because it's coming from the Quran, and we weren't there, but because it comes from the Quran, and as Muslims, we believe it's the word of God, we have to believe it. We have to believe it. And because we believe that Allah is one of great power, and that if Allah wanted to do that, then Allah could. And the thing is that you've probably been in situations. This was a situation for Abraham. You've probably been in situations where it was not supposed to go right for you, but all of a sudden it went right. I know I have been in situations like that, but you get into situations, and the next thing like you think it's over. I'm done. It's not going to work. And then all of a sudden, bang, it works for you. And the only thing that you can say is Alhamdulillah. And Alhamdulillah in Arabic means all praise is due to Allah. All praise is due to the one who is looking out for me. That's what it means. Okay, so we'll continue. The fire submitted to the will of Allah, becoming cool and safe for Abraham. It only burned his bonds, and he sat in the midst of the fire as he was sitting in the garden. He glorified and praised the Lord Almighty with a heart that contained only love for Allah. Of course, in a situation like that, what? There was not a vacant space within for fear or worry. It was filled only with love. Fear and awe were dead, and the fire turned into coolness, making the air pleasant. Those who love Allah do not fear. And so the faith of the believers. So in the Quran, verse 3, verse 173 through 175, we're talking about Surah 3, verses 173 to 175, or chapter 3, verse 173 to 175. It says, those believers unto whom the people or the hypocrites said, verily the people or the pagans have gathered against you a great army, therefore fear them. But it only increased their faith, to increase them in faith, and they said Allah alone is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs for us. That's what the people of Gaza say. Those unto whom the people, hypocrites, verily the people or the pagans have gathered against you a great army, therefore fear them. But it only increased them in faith, and they said Allah alone is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs for us. So I only mention about the people of Gaza because, like they're Muslim, number one. And number two, I have seen video of them, people of, getting together for Friday prayer, coming together and giving praise and glorification to Allah. I've seen that. I mean, they still try to do their five prayers with all the strife and the struggle that the people of Gaza have gone through. I'm just telling you what I've seen. I'm telling you that they are the ones that say Allah alone is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs for us. So here it is. We live in America. You got a problem? So they turned with grace and bounty from Allah. No harm touched them, and they followed the good pleasure of Allah. Allah is the owner of great bounty. It is only Shaitan or Satan that suggests to you the fear of his supporters. The supporters of Shaitan. So fear them not, but fear me if you are true believers. That's the message of Surah 3, verse 173 through 175. Yeah, we're going to go through trials and tribulations, but don't fear these great armies and that come against you. What these reserve troops that come into your city, et cetera, and act as thugs. Say your prayer, read your book, and call on your God. The throngs, the chiefs, and the priests are watching the fire from a distance. It was burning their faces and near suffocating them. It kept burning for such a long time that the disbelief the story would never be extinguished. When it burned out, they were greatly amazed to find Abraham coming out untouched. Their faces were black from the smoke, but he was bright with light and grace. The raging fire had become cool for Abraham and had only charred the ropes which held him. He walked out of the fire as if walking out of a garden. Cries of astonishment were heard from the group. And those children got so happy, they were strutting right through the fire, but just laughing and the jumping and the preaching the gospel. Okay, so Surah 21, verse 70 say they wanted to harm him, but we made them the worst losers. And that's what happens with tyrants. That's what happens with tyrants. So keep your eyes open and watch today in your own life what's going on with the lives of tyrants. Just keep watching. Abraham challenges those who proclaim themselves as gods, King Nimrod. Abraham had established a definite reasoning against idolaters. Nothing was left for him except to reason against the people who proclaimed themselves God. While the king Nimrod heard, when the king Nimrod or no, Namrud. This is not Nimrod. This is Namrud, according to the way that this is pronounced. So I don't know if they're talking about Nimrod, but this one is called Namrud. Namrud heard of Abraham's safe exit from the fires. He became very angry. He feared that the status of God had been proclaimed for himself was now challenged by an ordinary human being. He summoned Abraham to the palace and held a dialogue with him, which Allah Almighty recounted. So in the Quran, and I tell you, read the Quran. So the whole idea, read the Quran because in there it says in the in these in these verses are signs for those who reflect. So in these are signs. So here is we talked about Abraham and the walking out of the fire. Okay, that's a basic, but maybe there's a higher meaning to it because fire can also represent rage. You could be in a court in a court. You could be in the court of law, and people can give a fiery speech, and then you come. They fiery. They're pushing all this fiery rhetoric towards you and toward the jury, and then the other guy comes with the coolness, with the cool truth, and then extinguishes the fire. So that's just a higher idea of what it could mean. But the whole idea is that there may be messages and signs in the Quran that you should try to read into. Okay, so here it is. We have Surah 2, verse 258. And have you not thought about him who disputed with Abraham about his Lord? Talking about Namrud. Because Allah had given him the kingdom. When Abraham said to him, "My Lord Allah is he who gives life and causes death," he said, "I give life and death." That's what the king said. Abraham said, "Verily, Allah causes the sun to rise from the east, then cause it you to rise from the west." In other words, really, Allah causes the sun to rise from the east. Can you make it rise from the west? So the disbeliever was utterly defeated. Allah guides not the people who are wrongdoers. So that was a conversation. Basically, it is a conversation that Abraham had with King Namrud. I had a really interesting situation yesterday on our radio program, A New Day for Al Islam Community Radio, and we were talking about something in the Quran, and in the process of talking about something in the Quran, um, a caller, said, well. in order to prove the point that there was another possibility, said, they said 5 plus 3 equals 8. He said, well, if a person says 5 plus 3 equals 8, then, you know, X plus Y equals 8. And I said, yeah, well, okay. So he's saying, yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That X plus Y can equal 8 also. I said, yeah, yeah. He said, well, because 7 plus 1 could equal 8, and 6 plus 2 can equal 8, 5 plus 3 can equal 8, and 4 plus 4 can equal 8. So, there's a lot of different possibilities of getting to 8. But that wasn't the way the problem was set up. The problem was set up that 5 plus 3 equal 8. And then it says X plus Y equal 8. So you have to go back to the foundation of the problem. And the foundation of the problem was 5 plus 3 equals 8. So then X plus Y would mean that the higher thinking on 5 plus 3 equals 8 would be that X would be 5 and Y would be 3, which equals 8. So, that was the way that the problem was set up. But if the problem was set up that X plus Y equals 8, that's the foundation. X plus Y equals 8. And so then you could say, if you have started off X plus Y equal 8, then you could say 7 plus 1 equal 8, 6 plus 2 equal 8, 5 plus 3 equal 8, 4 plus 4 equal 8. But that wasn't the way the problem was set up. The problem was set up that 5 plus 3 equals 8, and now solve for X and Y equal 8. And so you got to put either a 5 or a 3 to be the X or the Y, because that's how the problem was set up. All right. So so I'm saying that because again, what happened here was when the king Namrud heard that Abraham saved exit from the fire, he feared that the status of Godhead had been proclaimed for him and was now challenged by an ordinary human being. And so here it is that there was this problem. Have you not thought about him who disputed with Abraham about his Lord because Allah had given him the kingdom? I'm talking about the king. When Abraham said to him, my Lord is he who gives life and death. So the king's like, yo, yeah, well, I give life and death. So you're not telling me nothing I knew. And then Abraham said, my Lord causes the sun to rise from the east. Can you make it rise from the west? So Abraham set it up. All right. My Lord gives life and death. And he said, yo, I give life and death. And then Abraham comes back. My Lord can make the sun rise from the east. Can you make it rise from the west? So then the king couldn't respond to it. He couldn't respond. All right. Because the way that the problem was set up. That's the only point. So the disbeliever was utterly defeated. Allah guides not the people who are wrongdoers. That's Surah 2, verse 258. Abraham's fame spread throughout the entire kingdom. People talked about how he had been saved from the blazing fire and how he had debated with the king and left him speechless. In the meantime, Abraham continued calling people to believe in Allah, exerting a great effort to guide his people to the right path. See, so we found out at the very beginning of the story of Abraham that, like he had been blessed with spiritual common sense. That Abraham had been blessed, even as a child, with his father, that, like, he when he saw that when Abraham, was, because Abraham's father was an idol maker. His father was an idol maker. And so, as a kid, he'd be playing around with the idols because the idol, father made an idol and lay it down on the ground. And then Abraham would get on the idol and act like it was a horse. And then the father get mad, get off of that idol. You're not supposed to be treating that idol like that. And it's like, that you, damn, dad, what you do? I'm just having fun. And then when he would go to the temple, his father's idol maker. So then he saw all these idols in the temple, and he saw people giving praise and glorification, bringing the idols food, and they would never eat it. And so, just as a young kid, as a young child, he, was able to figure out, what did these people do? These idols are this idol's laying on his back. This idol was laying on his side, and this idol could not right its side. They could not bring themselves up. They couldn't do that. So Abraham saw logic, of their disbelief, of their belief. It's like, what is wrong with these people? So he was given that kind of insight. So when he got to be a teenager or and a young man, and that's when, he just couldn't, understand, why people were doing it like that. And he decided that's when he decided to break all the idols. And he broke all the idols and put the axe around her neck and said, like, yo, um, ask that idol, and then they finally said, well, why we going to ask them, that they can't speak. And he said, yo, that's what I was trying to tell you from the very beginning. So he was able to, you know converse. When he was even a young man, he figured out, because there were sun worshipers at that time, people who worshiped the sun. There were people who worshiped the moon at this time. There were people who worshiped stars. And so, he was, laying out on the stars one night, and he said, okay, this is my Lord. This is when he was a young man, very young. He was just coming into, trying to find out who God was, or who the creator was, or, what he should believe in. And he saw the stars in the sky, and he said, no, this is my Lord. The people that worship stars, I'm gonna go with them. And then he saw the stars disappear. It's like, man, the stars disappeared. And then the sun came up. He said, oh, yo, this is my God, the sun. The sun does so many things. And then the sun disappeared. And he said, what is that? My God doesn't disappear. And then he saw the moon, and he knew how the moon, had some kind of power over a woman's cycle. He saw, what happened with the phases of the moon, um, and the way that they're acting in water, et cetera, et cetera. He saw that, well, this is my God. I'm gonna go with the people. But then, the moon even went away. And then he came to it. He said, I know who it is. My Lord is the one that has control over all these things like a puppet. There was a power behind all these things that make the stars come up, and make the moon come up, and make the sun come up. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that's in control of all this. So he found out that the power was behind the one who created the heavens and the earth. That was the way that he found out about it. And he stuck to it. So when he saw people worshiping idols and everything, he said, "Ooh, and he was, he had this intelligence that was able to, he broke the idols, and people said, yo, I mean, and so he said, yo, that's what I've been trying to tell you. And then they try to burn him. Then he goes to the king Nimrod. Nimrod says, like, yo, man, have a conversation with him. He said, well, who is it that you worship? Well, my Lord is the one who gives life and death. And Nimrod said, yo, I give life and death. And he said, well, my Lord can make the sun rise from the east. Can you make it rise from the west? And Nimrod was like, yo, I don't have that kind of power. And so he was utterly defeated. Abraham's fame spread throughout the kingdom. People talked about how he had been saved from the blazing fire, how he had debated with the king and left him speechless. In the meantime, Abraham continued calling people to the belief in the oneness of God, exerting a great effort to guide his people to the right path. He tried every means to convince them. However, in spite of his love and care for his people, they felt angry and deserted him. Only one woman and one man of his people shared his belief in the law. This is how pressure can come on. The pressure of society, the pressure of culture can come on. And that even though you know to some degree that you might be right, the thing is the pressure of culture, the pressure of family, can come on. And it's like, I can't follow. I can't follow you. Only one woman and one man of his people shared his belief in the law. The woman's name was Sarah, and she became his wife. The man's name was Lot, and he became a prophet. So if anybody has any questions or something like that, you can always, unmute your microphone, and then we can, have a conversation about it. Okay. But I'm just telling you, this is the stories of the lives of the prophets. So I'm reading the story and giving commentary on it. And if you have something that you want to say or, question, then please feel free. When Abraham realized that no one else was going to believe in his call, he decided to emigrate. That's how you say it? Emigrate, immigrate or emigrate, emigrate, to leave, basically. He left his people and traveled with his wife and Lot to the city called Ur, then another called Haran, and then to Palestine. My God, Palestine? Palestine is in here? And this was written by Ibn Kathir. Ibn Kathir was a scholar, a Muslim scholar from the 1300s, and he's mentioned in Palestine. We hear the idea of Palestine in 2025. Okay. Almighty Allah told him. So Lot or Lut believed in him, Abraham's messenger. And he said, I will leave for the sake of my Lord. Verily, he is the Almighty, the wise. After Palestine, Abraham traveled to Egypt, calling people to believe in Allah wherever he traveled, judging fairly between people and guiding them to truth and righteousness. And there was a hadith. Abu Huraira narrated that Abraham did not tell a lie except on three occasions, twice for the sake of Allah, when he said, I am sick, when his people were holding a festival in honor of the gods. And Abraham excused himself by saying he was sick. That's in chapter 37, verse 89. And when he said, I have not done this thing, but the big idol had done it. So that was the second time. The third time was while Abraham and Sarah, his wife, were going on a journey, they passed by the territory of a tyrant. Someone said to the tyrant, this man, Abraham, is accompanied by a very charming woman. So he sent for Abraham and asked him about Sarah, saying, who is this lady? Abraham said, she is my sister. So that's the third time he lied. Abraham went to Sarah and said, Sarah, they are not believers on the surface of the earth except for you and me. This man asked me about you, and I have told him that you are my sister, so do not contradict my statement. The tyrant then called Sarah, and when she went to him, he tried to take a hold of her with his hand, but his hand got stiff, and he was confounded. He asked Sarah, pray to Allah for me, pray to your Lord, pray to Allah for me, and I shall not harm you. So Sarah asked Allah to cure him, and he did, and he got cured. He tried to take hold of her for the second time, but his hand got as stiff as it is before, and he was more confounded. He again requested Sarah, pray to Allah for me, and I will not harm you. Sarah asked Allah again, and he became all right again. And then he called out one of his gods who had brought her to him and said, you have not brought me a human being, but you have brought me a devil. The tyrant then gave Hajar as a maidservant to Sarah. Let us remember that. Because this is the story of the lives of the prophet. And this is the way that Ibn Kathir is telling the story. So remember that. Because, boy, I'm telling you, well, this is how Ibn Kathir was telling it in the 1300s. That's all I'll say. So the tyrant gave Hajar as a maidservant to Sarah. Abraham, gesturing with his hand, asked, what has happened? She said, Allah has spoiled the evil plot of the infidel or immoral people and gave me Hajar for service. Abu Huraira then addressed his listener, saying that Hajar was your mother, O Bani, O Arabs. That Hajar was your mother. So he was talking, so Abu Huraira was talking to some believers, so for some listeners. Abu Huraira was talking to some listeners who was Arabs. And then he said, he told the story about Abraham and how Abraham had told this about this is my sister, and then this tyrant tried to take Sarah, and his hand got stiff, and she prayed and he got cured. And so like he gave her Hajar. Okay. And then after he told the story, he said that Hajar was your mother, talking to the Arabs. These people he was talking to Arabs, the descendant of Ishmael, Hajar's son. So it's 8:41. So we're talking about now this part of the book that's about Hajar and Sarah. And this is a story that you've heard. This is a stories that this is a story that gets complicated among the religions. The Hebrews have a tale for it, the Christians have a tale for it, and the Muslims have a tale for it. I'm telling you the tale, the way that the Muslims have it. Okay. because in 2025 you talk about Hajar. Hajar is spelled Hajar, now becomes Hagar, Hagar, and that she's haggard. She's a hag. She's a, that's the way that they make her. 2025, that's those relationships that they make Hajar. Okay, but Hajar also in Muslim tradition is the one who the Hajj, Hajj, is named after Hajj, Hajj. Okay, so those are some relationships. Hajar and Sarah. Abraham's wife Sarah was sterile, couldn't have any children. She had been given an Egyptian woman, Hajar, as a servant. Abraham had aged and his hair was gray, and after many years spent in calling people to Allah, Sarah thought she and Abraham were lonely because she could not have a child. Therefore, she offered her husband, her servant, Hajar, in marriage. Hajar gave birth to their first son, Ishmael, when Abraham was an old man. Now, that's the story that's told. And then you see how it says, offered her husband, her servant, Hajar, in marriage. So it's saying that Abraham was married to the servant girl. And that was the way that he was able to have a relationship with her. Okay. So it looks like they're going to change it right now and go to, something else. Abraham questions the resurrection. I don't want to read this part, because I don't want to read this part right now because, we were talking about, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So they put in a footnote. Well, what they do is in the book, what they do is this is basically the end of the story of Abraham, basically, the story of Abraham. But the story of Abraham in the stories of the lives of the prophets they have to mention this other part of Abraham. You got to give me a moment. Give me a moment. Sister Martha, could you, if you're available?
Yes, assalamu alaikum, everyone, and praise be to Allah, even to discuss the prophets. Anyone wanting to make any comments, please share, raise your hand, and share. If you're on the phone, you star nine
Star
and
nine and
that okay, come on in.
okay, come on
Assalamu
in.
alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. How's everyone?
Alhamdulillah, wonderful,
Alhamdulillah,
wonderful.
wonderful, wonderful. Yes, just I appreciate reading the story. And we were talking about the Abraham challenging the king, and we know the Quran doesn't give a name because the names are interchangeable. We know that, and they talked about um, life and death. So we use the Quran to see what it says about life and death because the king said I can give life and death, and we know any animal can do that. They can spare a life, they can take a life. So when you think about it, it has to mean more than just the taking of life or sparing a life. We have to we should look and see what else the Quran talks about life and death. Because when we look at 2:258, I believe it paraphrasing, um, say, "My Lord is the one who gives life and death." And then the king replied, "I give life and death," meaning to the average person it means he could spare or execute people. But when you look at 2 and 259, it talks about a dead town. So it gives you the understanding of what life and death means. It basically saying that Allah caused him to die for 100 years, then resurrected him. Allah asked how long had he stayed, and the man said a day or part of a day. So when we start looking deeply into it, it gives more insight to that conversation Ibrahim was having with that king. So my estimation means that when the king say he can give life or death, he can determine the spirits of those people, and he can kill the spirits of those people. And I'll stop there.
And as you were speaking, the thought came to me about our mind, as today we know things, and it says along with the spirit, because it's all intertwined. As I'm thinking, I'm seeing. Then I deal with the medical, patient care, and you can truly see a person that's despondent, and it's because whatever has triggered in their life has caused them to be despondent. Now, you don't see the cause, who's doing the triggering, but you can see a change on a person's face when someone enters a room. If you ever noticed, and so you have a conversation going on, and someone's face will change, and they are affected by the person who just entered. And so, likewise, with say a township or anything, that a mayor or that's in control of the person, what's going on in a city, and everyone is wanting to bring life, you know, making what you call it, suggestions of things that can be done. It says, oh, we need more youthfulness. We may need more of this. So it's obvious that they're talking about right then the death. The city is dying. Its people are dying off physically. The spirit of the city is dying off. They need more life. So yeah, we think of things. Uh, I should say, we can think of life and death, and in different, I say, variations.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Kareem.
Yes. Is my mind still distorted?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm purchasing an external mic this morning, but what I want to, I hope I can make this clear. Imam Muhammad stated, there isn't a gun made that can kill me if it is Allah's will that I live.
Right.
Okay, I'll stop right there. Thank you, my brother.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting that idea, because I think that when Abraham said it, I don't know if somebody mentioned it like that, but when Abraham said, my Lord is the one who gives life and death, when Abraham said it, he was talking about it on the basis of, you know, uh, creating the creation of life and death in all things. That life, begins from the sperm to the egg, and not only as far as human beings, but as far as all things. He said, "My Lord is the one who gives life and death." So it's this big idea of life and death, I think, that Abraham was talking about. But the king said, "I give life and death," and talking about it in a different frame. You see what I'm saying? I mean, is that the way you mentioned it, Ishmael?
I believe that king is difficult.
What was that?
I think you unfortunately, brother Kareem, you still breaking up. I'm not sure what it is.
All right.
Uh,
Thank you.
I I uh-huh. Well, what I don't think the king was that low thinking to think that he was talking about sparing and giving a life. The
Mhm.
king was a higher thinker than that. He wasn't thinking on that level that I can spare a life and I can execute a person. I don't believe he was thinking like that. He's a king, so he's thinking a whole lot higher. So he's speaking on the same level he believes that Ibrahim was speaking on. That's my thoughts on it.
Oh, okay. All right. And that's a good possibility.
Allah says in the Quran, He is the creator of the death and the life.
Yes. That's
Yes,
true.
Yes, sir.
that's true.
Yes, that's true. Um, but what Abraham did, that then he changed it. He said, "My Lord can make the sun come out of the east. Can you make it come out of the west?" So basically saying that the Lord I worship has more power than just the ability to give life and death. That my Lord is also the one who makes the sun come out of the east. Now, do you have some control over that situation where you can make the sun come out of the west to that degree? And so that's where the king got confounded that, yeah, the king was basically, yo, I got power. Or Abraham was saying, yeah, you got power, but you don't have power on this level. You don't have power on that level. And that was the understanding that Abraham had as far as the power behind the creation of the heavens and the earth, that he could always go there with it. That, these people that he talking about giving life and death, that, yeah, he may have had an understanding of it on a higher form, but it was always, I think it was basic, just on a human form, as far as life and death is concerned. But he didn't, the bigger picture. And even if he did understand it on the bigger picture, then he made the picture even bigger. He made it even larger and said, yeah, well, my Lord can make the sun come out of the east. Can you make it come out of the west? Do you have that kind of control over as a God? Namrud, do you have that kind of control? Do you have that? I was dealing with people that were serving, worshiping idols, and now you pissed off. You pissed off at me because you heard about what I've been able to do, and now you summon me to your court, and then when you summon me to your court, then here it is. Like you want to challenge who's the Godhead. You think you God? Okay. Well, the God that I worship is what Abraham said. Okay, gives life and death. And he said, yeah, well, I can give life and death. He said, well, I'm going to go a little further with it. My Lord can make the sun come out of the east. Can you make it rise out of the west? Do you have that kind of power as a Godhead? And so that's when he said, yo, that's when he was confounded. That's when he was confounded. That's
And
when
just
he was confounded.
yes, a quick comment on East and West. East is the dawning of consciousness. So that's the beginning, and the West is the conclusion of that consciousness. And also the sunrise and the sunset is dealing with time. And East and West is dealing with a direction, a spirit. And all of that has a beginning and a conclusion. So this expression denotes the whole reality, the universe of all things. And I believe when they had that conversation, they said that once they said that, they say the crowd was stunned when he asked the king that question. So in my understanding, they Abraham made it known that you can't control the whole reality of all of this.
Right.
That's asked the king that, and the king couldn't say anything. He was stunned, and
Right.
I was up there.
Yeah. Yeah. That was it. That was it. So there he confounded him again. Abraham was ready. Why was Abraham so successful with these situations? He was successful because he was worshiping the creator of the heavens and the earth that he had come to realize, that Abraham came to realize, even a young boy, when he was like, I worship the stars. No, the stars don't. Oh no, my Lord is the one that's the power behind all of this. That behind the sun, the moon. My Lord is the one that's behind all of this. The one that's behind all of this. It was just that simple, and that simplicity of understanding that, continue to grow. And especially when people didn't have that kind of understanding about the power of the creator of the heavens and the earth. Abraham had it. And because he had that kind of power, or that kind of understanding, that he had been blessed with that kind of understanding, that is one that helped him to be uh, 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 a staunch ally and a staunch uh, representative of a prophet for Allah, because we're dealing with it at a time when people were saying they were gods and they were worshiping idols. That's what was happening during that time. But he was one who held to the point about the creator of the heavens and the earth, the power behind. He understood that. So alhamdulillah. So we got a couple of minutes left in the program, and what we're going to do is we will continue next week. So that's and again, I'm going to, that was Surah 2, verse 260. It said, remember when Abraham said, my Lord, show me how you give life to the dead. Allah said, do you believe? Abraham said, do you not believe? Abraham said, yes, I believe. But to be stronger in faith, he said, take four birds, then cause them to incline towards you, then slaughter them, cut them into pieces, and then put a portion on each and every hill and call them. They will come to you with in haste. And Allah knows, and know that Allah is almighty and all wise. Now, I don't know if Abraham actually did that, cut up four birds and put them on different hills and everything, and they called them. But I think this was an analogy that the creator of the heavens and the earth was giving him, as far as trying to find out. He said, show me how you give life to the dead. That was the answer to that question that he had. Show me how you give life to the dead. And that's what, you know, Allah told him to do. Take four birds and put them on four, cut them. Cut the four birds up and put them on four different places, and then portion them on different mountains, and then call them, and they will come to you in haste. So that's just something to think about to that degree. But it had to be put here in the story of Abraham, because uh, this is what's in the Quran. And please be encouraged to read the Quran, because you might be able to figure that out, what that means, because this is how this verse ends. And know that Allah is Almighty and all wise. The verse ends with that. Um, so maybe Allah will bless you to figure that out. I'm not going to even try to figure that out. This is a little too deep for me. But maybe you'll be blessed to figure that out. But the next prophet that we're going to be talking about, which is going to really be a continuation of Abraham, which is Ishmael. We're going to go to it'll be Ishmael that we'll be talking about next week, which is really a continuation of Abraham to a great degree. All right. But, please be encouraged. Sister Martha, you want to tell them about what's going on today on American Muslim 360?
Yes, yes, yes. It will be courtship and marriage. It's all about
It's all about.
courtship and marriage. That's a constant in front of us all the time. We can duck, dodge, dip, dump, whatever. And I'm even lowering my head. But it's all about courtship and marriage. 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. with Manira Habil Umar, great facilitator, as she and her accompanying, she'd be accompanied by Bina Mohammed Beya. So please,
Alhamdulillah.
please plan to attend tonight and go back and watch uh, yesterday's presentation on relationships with MAP 5, that was Muslim American Power 5. The Honorable Cheryl Saduth had guests there, and we all were just speaking about relationships. Even
Oh,
her husband came
wow.
on.
Great.
That was at 1 p.m. yesterday to 3 p.m. Eastern
Right.
Standard Time. And
And in order
today,
to and in order to reach, go to YouTube and put in AM 360, and it'll come right up. Just put in AM 3, go to search, put in AM 360, and all of the broadcasts will come up on YouTube. Yeah. And today
today,
at 10 o'clock, on a New Day Community Radio, the Sisters in Islam, Sister Martha, Sister Rashida, Sister Quran, and other sisters, Sister Depresha Hadi, and any more will be on, and they will be reading from the Quran.
Amira,
Amira, don't forget Amira, can't forget her. Amira and others will be on, and will be reading from the Quran. What surahs? The 10 verses from the surah. It might be 30 through
yes,
30 to
we're
40.
in Surah 3,
Mhm.
Ayat 41.
Yes. And now, what's interesting about this is that, it's the sisters read in Arabic, and then they read about three translations. And you will find that in those three translations that are that are read that is basically saying the same thing. Basically saying the same thing. A couple of words here and there might be changed, but the meat of the ayat, or the meat of the verse, is basically the same. And seeing a lot of people get all messed up with that, but the meat of it is basically the same. And the reason why we do this is because gets to be a lot of uh, uh, conflict over, well, this one says this, and that one says this, and this one says this. No, this is what three of them, they are in agreement as far as is concerned. Now, what do you say? So that's basically it. So please join us at 10 o'clock on 971-379-9162. That's 971-379-9162. And the other part about this is that this is a conversation just for the women. Okay, for our Muslim sisters or our Muslim women, that they have a conversation between themselves. The brothers are not in that conversation. They come in, the brothers are allowed to come in and comment later on, maybe, after they get finished, with their 10 verses, and, all of they have to say about it. And then, maybe there's some idea that the brother might have, that the men that are listening may have gotten, and then they have an opportunity to address the sisters about the comments that they have made regarding the reading of the Quran. So that's it for us. Hey, let's listen. It's about to get juicy next week with the stories of the lives of the prophets. We getting ready to go into Prophet Ishmael, where Abraham leaves Hajar and Ishmael in the desert. Woo! Lord, Lord, Lord! If you don't know about that, please join us next week, and you're gonna come to know. So, Sister Martha, I want to give everybody the greetings. And thank you to American Muslim 360 for allowing me to do this program. And may Allah bless us. And until the next time, I give you all the greetings of Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.